What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Nick Doyle, joining you for my first solo shift of the season. If you're new here, Short Shifts is a twice-weekly check-in between the Sunday mega shows of Keeping Karlsson, designed to keep you up to date with fantasy news, takes, and analysis all throughout the fantasy season, and especially during the fantasy hockey playoffs. We've got a lot of news to get to, so let's dive right in. First off, the Tampa Bay Lightning have announced that Victor Hedman is taking an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons. Obviously, we wish him all the best in his time away from the game, but that means that John Cooper is going to be reconfiguring the lines without the Lightning captain. Nikita Kucherov apparently saw what Alex Ovechkin is doing in Washington and said, "Hey Coop, you think I could be on both power plays?" So he's currently pulling double duty and playing almost 75% of the power play time, as Tampa has him featured heavily on both units with the man advantage. The interesting part here is that anyone on either of the two power plays will have some exposure to Kucherov. In particular, Charle-Edouard is heading up the point on the second power play unit and has 4 points in his past 5 games, including 2 assists tonight. Not exactly a pause the pod moment, but hey, they can't all be Darren Radish. Staying in the Sunshine State, the Panthers announced that forward Anton Lundell will likely sit out the remainder of the season with a rib injury. Florida's current lineup is a veritable who's who of guys that you probably didn't remember were on the Panthers, as they are currently without Alexander Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Brad Marchand, Mackie Samoskevich, Cole Schwindt, and Jonah Gadjevich. The main beneficiary I see from the ship of Theseus that is the Florida Panthers is Evan Rodrigues. Or that's what I would have said about an hour ago. Erod was ruled out with an upper body injury after the first shift tonight, so Vinnie Hinostroza ended up joining the top power play unit. I'm not sure if anyone else on Florida is vaguely interesting in terms of streamer territory, so keep an eye on game day tweets to see which player could have an opportunity with the top unit. Over in Chicago, 2024 first-round draft pick Sacha Boisvert is making his NHL debut for the Blackhawks tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. Boisvert was eligible to sign his entry-level deal with the Blackhawks once Boston University's season ended almost 2 weeks ago. He started out on a line with Teuvo Teravainen and Landon Slaggert, but took a couple shifts with Ryan Donato and Ilya Mikheyev as well, so I'm curious to see where he ends up. Chicago has a nice off-day schedule for the rest of this week's fantasy playoffs, so there are a couple streaming options from Chicago that could have some solid upside. In particular, Arvid Soderblom will almost certainly get the Friday start against the struggling Rangers, and then you could drop him for a Sunday savior if Chicago ends up going back tonight against the Devils. Another injury that just came up, Sidney Crosby will not return to tonight's game against Ottawa. He took what looked like a minor shoulder-on-shoulder hit along the wall from Nick Cousins in the first, came out to start the second period, and then left after a 38-second shift. In his absence, Re-Kindel joined Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust on the top line and has an assist tonight. He's widely available in Yahoo leagues, and the Penguins have a crazy fantasy week coming up where they play 5 games. So you could probably do a lot worse than Re-Kindel if he ends up on that top line, top power play deployment. And speaking of Ottawa, Carter Yakemchuk had a fantastic debut on Tuesday, scoring a goal and adding an assist against Detroit. He didn't point today, just a couple of shots and a block, but he was running the top unit for the Sens, so it looks like they will be giving him sheltered deployment with big upside for points as he adjusts to the NHL. In the meantime, Tabas Shabbat had surgery on his arm to repair a broken bone and will be out for the rest of the regular season. Jake Sanderson remains out as well, but he's resumed skating and will join the team on their upcoming road trip. Sanderson could be back in action Saturday against the Panthers or Tuesday against the Lightning, in which case Yakemchuk could be bumped down to the second unit or possibly even sent back to the AHL. And the hits just keep on coming tonight. Damon Severson left tonight's game against the Habs with an upper body injury, and there was no update on his status after the game. Severson had the Blue Jackets' lone goal in a 2-1 loss and was hurt in the third period after a hit from Zach Bolduc. He's considered day-to-day for now, but if he misses time, Igor Zamula or Jake Christensen will replace him in the lineup, while Denton Matejchuk and Dante Fabro could be in line for a bigger role and more ice time. That's a tough loss for the Blue Jackets, as they've been an incredible turnaround story under Rick Bowness that have many wondering if there might be a Jack Adams trophy in the cards for Bones this year. And hopefully our last injury is over in St. Louis, where Robert Thomas is missing tonight's game against San Jose with an upper body injury. Thomas was injured on Tuesday against the Capitals when Pierre-Luc Dubois did a sort of judo takedown in response to a borderline interference pick in the third period. In Thomas's absence, Dalibor Dvorsky has stepped in as the top power play center for the Blues. He already has a goal tonight playing with Holloway and Snuggerud, and the Blues have been hoping to get more out of their promising young prospect, so hopefully he makes the most of this opportunity. I'll be keeping a close eye on the situation as the Blues have a very favorable schedule next week for the playoffs, playing 4 off-night games. I would definitely check to see which Blues could be available for you in free agency before the final week of fantasy playoffs. And with that, we'll take a quick ad break, and we'll be back in just a bit with some hot and cold streaks.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. You can even bet on all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm looking right now. I'm seeing there's odds for the NHL draft. Is it the first overall pick going to be Gavin McKenna or the field? You can bet on that even. New customers bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for the Hockey Podcast Network to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-77777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager, tax, pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms of responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved.
Welcome back. Let's jump into some hot and cold streaks. First off, we have Noah Cates of the Philadelphia Flyers, who is quietly putting together quite a career-best season playing alongside Matvei Michkov and Carl Grundstrom. Cates has 4 goals and 2 assists over his past 5 games, including one of each tonight against the Blackhawks. He's become a dependable center for the Flyers, and they're rewarding him with time on the top power play unit alongside Travis Konechny and Trevor Zegras. Since the Olympic break, Cates has compiled 14 points over 15 contests, but remains minimally rostered across Yahoo leagues. The Flyers play 2 games this weekend and then 4 games next week, including 2 off nights, so keep him in mind if you're in search of a Sunday savior. If you're looking for someone who's riding shotgun to a star NHL forward, you could do a lot worse than Connor Brown. After picking up an assist tonight against Nashville, Brown has 8 points in his past 6 games, playing with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt at even strength, and on the top power play with Nico Hischier and Dougie Hamilton. He's getting incredible deployment and tons of ice time, but is still only 67% rostered in Cupful and widely available in Yahoo leagues. The Devils also play against Chicago on Sunday, so he'll have a good chance of getting some points this weekend, even if their schedule next week is all on busy days. Another hot streak, Brock Boeser has been heating up for the Canucks to the tune of 8 points in his past 6 games. Even though he's primarily known for his shooting, Boeser has accumulated 6 assists to go with a pair of goals and is averaging just under 3 shots per game during that span. He's playing at even strength with the ex-Minnesota players Liam Ogren and Marco Rossi, and on the top power play unit as well. The Canucks have an interesting schedule coming up where they play Monday, Wednesday next week, and then a busy Thursday and Saturday. Boeser is available in around 40% of Cupful leagues, and you could always hold him for Monday, Wednesday, and then drop him on Thursday for someone who has a better schedule for the rest of the fantasy week. And speaking of Minnesota Wild players, Vladimir Tarasenko has been making the most of his opportunity playing alongside Matt Boldy with 9 points in his past 9 games. It looks like he's been bumped off of the top power play unit, but their line has been driving play at even strength, and anyone playing with Boldy always has an opportunity to cash in on some points. He's usually good for at least a couple shots and a hit or 2 per game, but Minnesota has an odd upcoming schedule where they play Saturday and then not again until the following Thursday, with a pair of weekend games to close out the fantasy playoffs. I think Tarasenko would be someone that I would look at speculatively to pair with someone like Boeser, for example, who I'd hold for Monday, Wednesday games, and then trade out for a more favorable schedule for the rest of the week. And with all these hot streaks must come some cold ones. Tommy Novak has gone scoreless in his past 6 games with the Penguins. Now you might ask why this is notable given that he hasn't gotten any points in the past 24 goals scored by Pittsburgh. The reason I bring this up is because, as I mentioned before, the Penguins have an insane week to close out the fantasy playoffs, playing a monstrous 5 games in 7 days. Add in the fact that Evgeny Malkin may return from injury soon, and Novak could soon find himself playing between Malkin and Igor Chinnikov on the second line, which has shown flashes of offensive upside when the 3 of them were healthy. I thought for sure Novak was going to break his scoring drought tonight in overtime against the Senators, but Linus Ullmark stoned him on the breakaway. Novak is widely available and seems to me like someone who could be a fun lottery ticket for the fantasy playoff finals, so keep an eye on the news out of Pittsburgh for when Malkin rejoins the team. And in a sort of abstract hot streak, the PWHL just celebrated a cumulative attendance total of 2 million fans. It took until midway in the second season for them to reach 1 million, and they got their second million in little over a year, which is great to see. Whether you have a local PWHL team or just a nearby location where the Takeover Tour is stopping by, I really encourage anyone to check out one of their games. And that'll be it for this shift. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed our show, please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson patron group at keepingkarlsson.com/patron, where super supporters receive ad-free episodes and you can interact with Brian, Elon, the Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on our active Discord server. Check out Game Day Tweets to get all the best info from Twitter without having to slog through the rest of that place, including team by team and searchable tweets by player name. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. Until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.